Gas prices are at an all-time high. As of today, California has the most expensive gas prices in the entire country, starting at a staggering amount of $5.91 a gallon. Nevada comes in at a close second at $5.23 a gallon, and states all over the country are suffering from the same rising inflation at the gas pump. Gas prices are currently the most expensive they have ever been in the entire U.S. history. The average price of gas has reached $4.24 across the United States, breaking the all-time highest record since 2008. With work from home ending and people returning back to commuting and traveling to the office, many people are concerned about how they will be able to fit the rising gas prices into their post-pandemic livelihood and their everyday expenses. Earlier in the month, gas was $100 a barrel for large gas companies, which naturally counteracted and undid any rise in oil that was caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And for major gas companies, as of today, oil has now plunged more than 8%, touching a record low of $99.76 a barrel. So that means oil has lost a quarter of its value since its 14-year high, when it was at $130.50 a barrel on March 6th. Not only that, but this is the first time oil has traded below $100 since March 1st of this year. Despite the price of crude oil being below $100 a barrel, gas prices are still at an all-time high. So if oil is at an all-time low for major gas companies, then what's going on at the pump? Why is gas so high for consumers while profits have soared for major gas companies like Exxon and Chevron? And why is the price of oil lower today than it was in 2014, while the average price for a gallon of gas nationwide is 80 cents a gallon higher than it was 8 years ago? Many politicians and members of the media are blaming the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia for the rise in gas prices. Essentially, the war in Russia and Ukraine is being used by big oil corporations as a red herring to hide their hands from their own profiteering. But what most people don't know is that the increase actually has very little to do with Russia and Ukraine's war, and all to do with one large point of corruption within the oil industry. So what is this little-known scheme responsible for the highest gas prices that America has seen in its entire history? Well, it's known as profiteering. In this case, profiteering is the process of consumers getting elevated gas prices at the pump, even though the top 24 oil and gas companies make an estimated $174 billion in profits, shell out $44 billion for stock buybacks and dividends, and constantly make new world record profits from the fall in crude oil prices. Profiteering has been able to continue on for so long due to politicians who have a personal interest and personal relationships with oil companies. Take, for example, Senator Joe Manchin, who opposes government funding of electric vehicle infrastructure. His opposition comes as no surprise given Senator Manchin's involvement in his family coal business, which makes him a record $500,000 a year. And Senator Manchin also receives large amounts of campaign donations from, you guessed it, major oil corporations. Not only this, but typically during crises such as the pandemic and ongoing wars such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine, many big oil companies, huge corporations, and billionaire classes routinely use global crises as an excuse to price gouge consumers. Congresswoman AOC was the most recent politician to perfectly summarize what's happening. In her recent tweet, she stated that many folks run around claiming to be free market capitalists, but what they actually are is captured market capitalists, using subsidies and restricted policy to hold us hostage to fossil fuels for profit, healthcare, housing, etc. that many wouldn't choose if they had the choice. If you think gas is expensive now, imagine if we actually had to pay the true price. If fossil fuel companies didn't have such tipped scales for them, it's very likely we'd be much further along with cheaper alternatives. She went on to say that the same goes for pretty much every other industry. That's big pharma, Wall Street, and more. The Congresswoman also went on to point out the hypocrisy and double standard of Washington, which pretty much allows and accepts hundreds of thousands of dollars in fossil fuel money and owns millions in fossil fuel investments while brazenly killing clean energy policies. What can be done to solve this? Well, first, clean energy is the long-term solution. A swift and urgent transition to clean energy is what we must move into. We simply cannot environmentally or economically take more leasing, drilling, or investments in major oil companies, because these all contribute to the current energy crisis. Essentially, instead of an economy creating windfall profits, we need to be creating wind power energy. Now that's the long-term solution. But the short-term solution is the windfall tax. Many Democrats have proposed and backed legislative solutions to current gas prices. One of their biggest efforts is the windfall tax, which was created by Representative Ro Khanna of California and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. Both senators introduced legislation to tax oil and gas companies' windfall profits as oil prices reach record highs. Now, essentially, the legislation would place a tax on the difference in price between the current barrel prices and average pre-pandemic prices. The revenue made from the tax would be redistributed to the public and exclude people who make $75,000 in income yearly, essentially guaranteeing that consumers would pay less and stop oil companies from keeping prices high and padding their profits. Now, the bill is currently being backed by Senator Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who both vouch that it will help working-class families, while at the same time strengthening the economy by requiring large oil companies that produce or import at least 30,000 barrels of oil per day to at least owe a per barrel tax equal to 50% of the difference between the current price of barrel of oil and the pre-pandemic average price per barrel between the years 2015 and 2009. This quarterly tax will apply to domestically produced and imported barrels of oil. Many who back the bill are hopeful that it will lower energy costs, insulate consumers from price spikes, and reduce Western nations' dependency on foreign despots and greedy fossil fuel companies. If you want to find out more about the windfall tax and clean energy solutions to rising gas prices, visit our news website at www.incendiaryballoons.com. Thank you for watching.